Sometimes the universe needs us to get out of our own way. That's exactly what happened when I suddenly felt the need to take a nap. It wasn't just rest, it was a reset. But what happened next, that's where things got interesting. Stick around because this story proves that we are all connected. Coincidence or proof that we are one? Welcome back to Rivvibe with River. I want to talk about this story that I think really shows how it is that we are all connected, and how everybody. If you listen to the last episode, I was talking about how our subconscious Wi-Fi signal is not private. So because it isn't private, we are constantly affecting those around us unconsciously without us being aware, without them being aware. But I want to bring a story that I believe is proof that we are connected. And this is just several of them, but I do want to share this one with you because I believe it's one that really leaves an interesting doubt. That's why I said, we named this episode Coincidence. Is it a coincidence that we of what happened, or is it proof that we are all one? As always, I ask you all to subscribe, like, and share. It helps me, move up in the algorithm. It might not resonate with everyone, but the right people, and I believe you can receive something out of this. So let's talk about this. I'll leave the title up there again: Coincidence or proof that we are all one. I want to talk about this because what happened in this story is something that I have some notes on, because I was, writing down exactly how it happened to be able to remember the chronological order of the flow of the things that came up that day. And what happened was, one day I was coming home. There's actually no, it just thought of another situation, which I'll bring up at the end. It's actually not even part of this, but now that it came up, I'm going to bring it up as well. I came home one day from work, and I was extremely just tired. I want to take a nap really bad. I know we've all been there. And at this time, I was super exhausted. It was like this exhaustion took over me. So when I got home, I took a nap, right? And I remember taking this nap. It was around, I think that day I got home around 3:30 or 4. But when I woke up, after like an hour, I woke up with this urge to just give some clothes away. And it was interesting because I just got up. I was like, you know what? Give away some clothes. And I was like, to who? There goes the conversation in my head, right? To who? Who am I going to give this clothes to? And then out of nowhere, it was like, yeah, what clothes? So I'm looking through I had some pants that I probably wore once or twice. And so I just put them in a bag, and some shirts, some hoodies actually, and some sweaters. Because it was around winter time in Phoenix. Yeah, if you want to call it winter, right? But it was cold. It was around November, late November, early December, when it starts getting cold. So I'm putting this together. And then I remember I had two jackets. It was a black leather one and a brown one. The brown one specifically, I know I only wore it like 3 times. So it was pretty basically new. And so when I put it away, I was like, do I take this to Goodwill? Where do I take this, right? But it was like, no, drive and I'll tell you who to give it to. So I was like, okay. So I left, and as I got to a specific neighborhood that I was led to go to, I remember when I got to the neighborhood, all of a sudden I craved a slice of pizza. And I was like, oh, okay. So I popped by a Little Caesars and bought one, but I wasn't, even though I craved one, I didn't grab a slice or anything. I got like sodas and everything. I'm like, okay, am I supposed to give this to someone? Like, what's going on here? Who am I? I'm not gonna eat a whole pizza. So I remember driving around and seeing people walking, and I was like, that person? And so I was like, nope. I was like, driving still. That person? It's like, nope. Okay. So I'm like, and I kept doing this for about 30 minutes. And then finally I was like, okay, like what the heck is this all about, right? Like what's going on here? So I decided I was already like kind of a little frustrated. I was like, I'm going to go home. So as I start to drive back towards the house, I get to a street, and I remember there was a light, and I looked just past the light. There was a bus stop, and the bus stop, because you couldn't see who was in the bus stop because it was like the one that's like a little fence housing, like an awning and all that stuff, right? So it was like a little the cover, so I couldn't tell if there was somebody there. But as I started driving, I looked, and as I looked, there was a man sitting there, and I remember looking at the man, and I was like, "Oh, that guy's gonna go to work or something." That's the guy. So I went around the block, and I came back around, and I remember I lowered the window, and I'm like, "Hey," I go, "Hey, man," and he looked at me. He got up, and I looked at him, and I go, "Do you want a pair of pants? Or no, do you need a pair of pants?" And he looked at me like he had like tears in his eyes, and he looked at me and goes, "Are you kidding me?" And I remember looking, when I looked at his pants, both legs were ripped from the almost like by his thigh all the way below the knee, as if somebody grabbed a knife and just went like this. And I was like, I couldn't see any of this when I just drove past him. His sweater was dirty. The gentleman was obviously homeless at this point. So I remember I go, no, I'm like, "Hey, no, I'm serious here." And so I gave him the bag, and I go, "Here." And I go, I feel like we're both similar size. There's a belt in there too. So I gave him the pants, the shirts, and it was cold. So I go, "Do you want a jacket?" And he was like, "Yeah," and so I gave him a jacket. And then I was like, and I go, "Are you hungry?" He goes, "I haven't eaten." And I go, "Okay." So I gave him the pizza, and the soda. And I remember telling him when I gave him that, I said, "You called me here. This is for you." That's what I said to him. "You called me here. This is for you." And I go, "Remember that." Yeah, something like that. I remember I told him like, "Hey, remember, you called me here. This is for you." And it was like, wow, that was interesting, how that connection happened. So now I leave and I'm driving on the freeway and I'm going back home, but I still had the brown jacket in the back. But I didn't think of it anymore. I was like, well, I guess I brought an extra jacket. I honestly didn't even really think about it. I knew it was back there, and I knew he couldn't do anything with two jackets. I gave him the black one because it was a longer one, warmer one. So that's what I felt led to give him. So I'm driving home, and when I'm going home on the freeway, it was the weirdest thing because my exit was coming up, and it was like one of those Jim Carrey, like I forgot what movie with Jim Carrey where like the hand takes over and it's like in control, No matter what I was doing, I could not make myself get off on the next exit, which was my exit. So I was like, what? I'm supposed to go straight? Like, this is weird. So I went straight. The next exit, I got off and I was like, that is weird. I don't know what's going on. So I got off, and I remember I got back on the on-ramp and came back around to get off on the exit I'm supposed to get off on, but it was coming around. When I get to the bottom of the ramp, there was a red light. The light just turned red. So I'm the first car on the left lane making a left. And there's a guy sitting there in a white tank top. And he's doing this. Like, he's like, and it was cold. And in Phoenix, everybody says that it's really hot, but it is when it gets cold here, because it's a dry weather. So the cold really feels cold. I always say our 30 degrees feels like in Chicago, 45 or 30 feels like 45 here. So it's just like it's a different cold. The guy was cold, and I remember I lowered the window and I go, "Hey, bud, you need a jacket, man?" And he looked at me like duh, right? And I go here, and I grabbed the one that I had in the back, and he looked at it, he goes, "Sir, this is very nice. Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, take it." And I go, "Hey," and so I said the same thing I said to the other guy. I go, "Hey, you must have called me here, so it's yours, man. You called me here, it's yours." And he just looked at me like, "Oh, thank you so much. I'll take so much care of it." And I'm like, "Hey, don't worry about it." To me, that story is interesting because it illustrates a lot of synchronicities of how everything is connected, right? That guy, I don't know what that guy at the bus stop was thinking, what made him, how he ended up in that situation where his pants were ripped, etc. Why, when I took a nap, I woke up saying, because it was really ultimately the pants that I woke up like, "Hey, give away some of your clothes." And it was the pants that I went right to give away. Obviously, I was like, well, I have sweaters too and jackets, so might as well just, take some things. But I didn't know what I was going to do. And and I wanted to say something about that because I want to also mention another story towards the end. So this one is another one that one of my friends, this happened with a friend from a long time ago. But I want to talk about rest and reset because sometimes we can't meditate. And the word meditate is like, oh, what a drag. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to do it. We don't want to do it. And I've learned that a nap, the whole point of meditation is to the subconscious wants to live in us to live authentically. When we have been programmed in a way that's out of our authenticity, we crave to be authentic. And that's why people that are depressed nap a lot. Because a lot of times that's the way the subconscious can get the conscious mind out of the way, which in a sense is what happens when you do meditation or hypnosis. We get to a place where the goal is to remove the conscious mind, the thinking, analyzing, analytical, trying to figure out mind that it only functions on experiences. That's the one that we attempt to get out of the way as much as possible, which is the mind that a baby from the time of birth to their first memory didn't really function with. There was no figuring out mind. It just functioned subconsciously, right? So intuition speaks when the mind is quiet. I did want to the call of intuition is to quiet down the mind, and intuition speaks when the mind is quiet. And for some of us, sometimes taking a nap is the way to get the subconscious mind to speak up so that we can start moving around, acting about our day, being led by the subconscious versus and that usually it is more fulfilling, such as this scenario I just mentioned to you. But I also want to mention this, that when you rest and you are functioning in alignment with who you are, that brings about synchronicity in action. That kind of starts to reveal the hidden connections between us that they become more evident, and you begin to see them. You begin to become aware of them, and you know that more things are achievable versus without really having to try so hard to make things happen. The first man with the torn pants, what a coincidence, exactly what I packed, right? What he needed. And, the extra jacket that I kept for the man that was shivering at the exit. Those synchronicities and beyond, I have so many more stories of this that it's really quite interesting. So I want to share these with you because I know you also have these as well. And you might have just brushed it off as coincidence, or you might have been like, wow, how did I make that happen? What happened? So that you can also be aware of what it is that we're doing when we make things happen. things like this happen. I want to ask you, how would you live life if you knew that every moment can guide you? That's deep. If you knew that every moment can guide you, all of a sudden you realize that, hey, I don't really want to go to that gathering, but something tells me to go. I'm going to go. You start to move about life in a way that just brings more alignment. You're not chasing things. You meet cool people along the way, and just things happen where you help others and they help you. Have you considered lately that there's other ways to meditate as well? It doesn't always have to be meditation. It could be going to the gym. It could be breath work. It could be taking a drive. And then I think that's when you start to recognize that people are part of our journey just as much as we are part of theirs. There's no coincidences. And I wanted to share this story. I want to end with this other story. This one happened a while ago. And this is when I was still in Chicago. And I remember I got home around 3:30 or 4. And something about that time, right? I got home around that time. And I remember taking a nap. And I had a dream that my friend... So I saw myself when I laid down. I saw myself... I was having a dream that I looked up. And when I looked up, it was like I was in a hospital bed. And I started to float up in towards the ceiling. And then I flipped over and looked down, and it was my friend's body. It was her laying on the hospital bed, but she was awake. And next to her there was a gun with a 357, specifically, with one bullet outside of the gun. And there were people, and her dad was next to her telling her stuff. And there was a line of people outside waiting to talk to her. And she was going like this, like that, right? So I woke up, like she didn't want to hear anything. She's like, I don't want to hear it. In the dream, I woke up like, what the heck? I felt like, man, I was feeling like I wanted to, like I was in the worst place of my life. Like I felt like I lost everything. Like it was just a really crazy situation, because I was very happy when I took that nap, and I woke up feeling very depressed. So I was really like, what the heck is this? So I called a friend of mine, and I'm like, hey, I just had a dream about this person that we both knew. What do you think? He's like, man, you should give her a call. I'm like, but it's like 4:30. I go, she's still at work. I don't think she gets off till like about 6. And I hadn't talked to her in probably about 5 months. And she's a good friend. She's still a good friend. And so I remember I gave her a call, and I'm like, she's not going to answer. And she answered. So she was like, hello. And I go, hey, oh, you're home. She's like, yeah. I go, I just had a dream about you. She goes, you did? And I go, and I remember telling her, this is what I dreamt. Tell me if this makes sense. So I explained what I just said to you all, And as I'm explaining this, all of a sudden, I saw as I'm talking to her, I saw her standing by her front door. And when I saw her in my imagination, it was weird. Like I saw a picture, and it's like as if I zoomed in on her belly, and she had a belly, and her shirt was tight around her belly, and it was raised, and I saw veins around her belly. And I looked, and I said, as I was talking to her, and I go, holy moly. I go, you know what? You're pregnant, aren't you? And you're deciding you're wondering whether to have an abortion or not. She was like, how the hell did you know that? I haven't talked to you in about 4 months. Nobody knows about this. What the heck? And I was just dreaming as I was sleeping, saying, help, I need help. And so it was crazy how that happened. But again, there's no coincidences. And that's why removing the conscious mind out of the way, the whole goal is to get the conscious mind out of the way. Sometimes people do ayahuasca for that. People do shrooms or they do the toad, different things, right? So it's not one way. And another thing, somebody might go on a hike, somebody might go on a run, somebody might start cooking or cleaning the house, and they zone out and get this aha moment where they're able to actually remove the thinking brain for a second, kind of like when you drive somewhere and you're so in a zone that you forget to get off on your exit. That is, in essence, what that is all about. And I believe if we start to practice that, if you're tired, you want to take a nap, you'd be surprised that that could be what you needed to get clarity, you know? And I want to encourage you to really look for the moments that you can quiet your mind so that you can start to experience things like this. And you might say, well, I don't want to have dreams or I don't want to have any of that stuff. But it might be something that benefits you. We don't know, right? We don't know what can come of it. But it always is fun to see things like this happen. So, yeah, that's really it right now. I mean, I just wanted to, ask you to give yourself an opportunity to trust your intuition and know that it's leading you somewhere. And, what do you think? Have you ever had those moments where everything lined up for you perfectly? Do you think it was a coincidence? Maybe not. And I know that we've all had them. Just want to encourage you to look for them. I do have, by the way, a hypnosis that I think you will enjoy. It is very powerful. It is specifically written to allow you to release the initial sensitizing emotion that might have been implanted in your subconscious before you could ever remember what was there. Very important. It's written in such a way that I believe is one of the most powerful ones, because a lot of times I hear 8-hour, 4-hour hypnosis on YouTube, but they don't have an ingredient which is really needed. And this is the part that brings the healing. And the part is where you get to experience and feel and reveal the initial sensitizing event. Reveal it, exposing it, so you can heal it and then release it. So that's really the key. And it's written in such a way so that you can actually go to sleep to it. It's designed for you to actually go to sleep to it. And then from there, it brings you to a place where we get you to your subconscious to reveal that initial sensitizing emotion that might have caused blocks or hindrances in your life. And then from there to rewire the subconscious with something that your subconscious wants for you. So in this hypnosis, I don't do anything that would be in any way written by me that wouldn't work for you, because it's all designed for your subconscious to reveal to you throughout this sleep process a new perspective on life, something that works for you effortlessly without any type of hustle or, oh my God, I got to change, I got to do this. No, it's written exactly in a way where you are in control. Your subconscious makes the changes, and you can start living the life effortlessly that you want to live. And I'm looking forward to you listening to that hypnosis that I'll be putting up next week. Take care.